Hello, and welcome to G Fun Facts Online, the show that dives deep into the fascinating corners of history and science. Today, we're setting sail into the past, into an age before GPS, before even the magnetic compass. We're joining the Vikings, the undisputed masters of the North Atlantic. We often picture them as fearsome warriors, but their greatest legacy might just be their skill as navigators. How did these seafarers, in their elegant longships, manage to cross vast, treacherous oceans to reach Iceland, Greenland, and even North America centuries before Columbus? It wasn't luck. It was a remarkable combination of science, ingenuity, and a profound connection to the natural world. First up, let's look to the heavens. The sun and the stars were the Vikings' primary guides on the open ocean. During the day, it was simple enough. The sun's position gave them a reliable sense of east and west. By tracking its arc across the sky, they could hold a steady course. At night, the sky became a celestial map. The most important landmark was the North Star, Polaris. Because it sits almost directly above the North Pole, it's a fixed point, a constant indicator of north. By keeping Polaris at a specific angle relative to their ship, Viking sailors could steer with confidence. They could even use the height of the North Star above the horizon to get a rough estimate of their latitude, how far north or south they were. This was critical for long-distance voyages. They also recognized constellations, using their seasonal shifts as a giant cosmic calendar, helping them time their voyages for the best weather. This wasn't knowledge from a book. It was a rich oral tradition, passed down from one skilled navigator to the next. But what happens when the sky isn't clear? The North Atlantic is famous for its dense fog and persistent cloud cover, hiding both the sun and the stars. This is where the Vikings may have used a truly legendary tool, the sunstone. Mentioned in Icelandic sagas as the solarstein, this object was long thought to be pure myth, but science suggests it was very real. The leading theory is that the sunstone was a type of polarizing crystal, like Iceland's spar, which is a transparent form of calcite. These crystals have a fascinating property. They split a beam of unpolarized sunlight into two separate rays. By rotating the crystal and looking through it at the sky, a navigator could find the one spot where these two beams merged or appeared equally bright. This point would indicate the precise direction of the sun, even when it was completely hidden by clouds or had just dipped below the horizon. Modern experiments have proven this works. Scientists have shown that a crystal like Iceland's spar can locate the sun's position to within just a few degrees of accuracy, even in thick fog. While we haven't found a sunstone in a confirmed Viking grave or shipwreck, a piece of Iceland's spar was discovered in the wreck of a 16th century ship near the Channel Islands, right next to a pair of navigational dividers. This suggests the technology was used for centuries, perhaps as a backup to the new magnetic compasses. On top of that, computer simulations of Viking voyages from Norway to Greenland have shown that using a sunstone would have dramatically increased the success rate of their journeys. Beyond the mystical sunstone, there's evidence for a more straightforward tool, the sun compass. In 1948, archaeologists in Greenland found a fragment of a wooden disc with lines carved into it. Many scholars believe this is part of a Viking sun compass. It would have worked by placing a central pin, called a gnomon, in the middle. The gnomon would cast a shadow onto the disc. By marking the path of the shadow's tip throughout the day, the Vikings could trace a curve. The shortest point of that curve would indicate the direction of true north. This would have been especially useful for maintaining a consistent latitude, which was the key to their voyages between Norway, Iceland, and Greenland. But the Vikings' success wasn't just about tools. They possessed a deep, intuitive understanding of the sea itself, honed over generations. They were masters of observation. The flight patterns of birds, for example, were a living map. Certain seabirds only fly a certain distance from shore, so seeing them could signal that land was near. They could read the color of the water and the patterns of the waves and swells to understand currents and their own location. They used all their senses, They could hear the sound of waves breaking on a distant, unseen shore, feel the subtle shift of the wind, or even smell the land on a sea breeze. The sea was so central to their existence that it permeated their mythology. They prayed to Njord, the god of the wind and sea, for safe passage. Their myths are filled with epic voyages and terrifying sea monsters like Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent that encircled the entire world. They told stories of Skidbladnir, a mythological ship that always found a fair wind and could be folded up small enough to fit in a pocket. These stories reveal just how deeply the ocean was woven into the fabric of their culture. So, the Vikings' mastery of the seas was a multifaceted skill. It was a combination of practical science, innovative technology, and a deep, almost spiritual connection to their environment. They weren't just raiders. They were some of the most skilled and intuitive navigators in human history, people who could read the language of the sky and the sea to venture into the unknown and forever change the map of the world. Thanks for listening to G Fun Facts Online. Join us next time for another journey into the amazing.